What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and this is episode 109, covering our first of hopefully a couple shows on the Gulfstream Park Championship meet. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys all for joining the show. Of course, it is much appreciated. As you see scrolling on the bottom side of the screen right now, please go down below the video player here on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content, because not only is it the easiest way to support our channel, but also it pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. We have shows on the podcast every single Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday, this show, Bettin and Boozin at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Pacific Horseplayers with Noah Maher and Ryan Anderson. And, of course, Picks and Ponies every single Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with Howard, Pete, and Paul. This week, they're covering a very, very nice Aqueduct card, including the Cigar Mile. Don't want to miss that, of course, if you're betting this weekend. So go check that out tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Guys, we'll go through our quick peripherals and then we'll get right into the show. Of course, every single episode that's posted here to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel is also available in audio form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor for that. So if you're going, on your way to work and working out in the gym and you wanted to listen rather than watch, please go rate, review, and subscribe over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. I have TikTok and Instagram, guys. Now, Bettin and Boozin Podcast. Please go follow us over there. I post a bunch of short form content, whether that's schedules for the upcoming week, our best bets in case you have to miss a show. Of course, all the shows that are on YouTube are available as replays after. So if you could watch halfway and you want to come back, you're more than welcome to do that as well. But best bets are on the Instagram and TikTok, as well as race previews and other stuff that I'll upload over there. So again, at Bettin and Boozin Podcast, both on TikTok and Instagram. Please go follow us over there. The Power Picks, guys, still going very, very strong. Since February of 2021, we have a $2.14 ROI, over 725 total picks. And if you subscribe to the podcast Power Picks for $15.99 a month, that's only $4 a weekend. Every single Saturday, you get this emailed to you, price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids for 2 different tracks, full write-ups for each picks, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. We here at the HHH Racing Podcast got you covered with the Power Picks. It's all through Patreon, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Link is also in the description box, and you can see previous editions of these Power Picks or just learn more about the podcast over at hhhracingpodcast.com. Guys, we'll move right into the handicapping, bring on my co-hosts, and we'll get right into it. One guy's going to be a little bit late, so our apologies there. He will join in a second. But, of course, we have a full house tonight. Both my podcast hosts are here. So let's bring on one of them from the East Coast of New Jersey, Patrick Kunsel. And, of course, Charlie Freeman will be on as well just a little bit later. Pat, what's going on, my friend?
Nothing much. I think our fellow co-host is hiding from you due to the hat that you have on, but that's okay. We'll chug through tonight.
I was waiting to point that out until we got on there, but oh man, my Super Bowl, baby, I love it so much. My Green Bay, Bears, Packers, and Michigan, Ohio State, my 2 Super Bowls in the year, and holy crap, what a terrible game! But my Super Bowl, that's all I care about, coming out on top. Charlie, bad time to come on, but what's going on, my man? Hold on, he's working out his stuff, so we'll give him a second to work out his stuff. We'll get his jab in a little bit, but had to get that in there, of course. Guys, if you are new here or find yourself coming back, why not comment in the live chat? We're both on X and on YouTube. On the bottom right-hand side of the screen, there is a chat box. Please feel free to comment in there. We read every single one, especially if you've looked at these picks or at these races already. Paul Conlon, of course, is here. Go Big Blue, baby. Go Blue Club supports you. Paul, thanks so much, man, for joining the show. Katie, of course, is here. Newport Lights, new face I haven't seen. Thanks so much for joining the show, man. Let's go blue, man. Absolutely. See, got so many Michigan fans in the chat. That's what we're talking about around here. Newport Lights, again, new face. Thanks so much for joining the show and watching. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, Chris Couples, that's a pretty good. It's not my first time getting to rub this in, as we've been on the air now for almost 2 years and still alluding to that Ohio State victory on this show. Charlie, did you test everything out? If you want, give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you back on. All right, he's there. Good. You good?
I think so. You guys hear me now?
All right, we're good. What's going on, my man?
Not much. I thought my anger towards college football was starting to wear off after the frustrating loss I had to sit through in the cold, and then the rankings show came out on Tuesday. So I'll save it for my rant at the end. But let's just say college football has found a way to upset me in more ways than I could imagine.
I know we got a Paul rant of the week special for Charlie Freeman at the end of the show. So hopefully you guys all love when Charlie Freeman goes on a tangent. So hopefully you guys can get your fix later in the show. Let's move on right on to the Gulfstream Park late pick 5 here on Saturdays, guys. Cheers to everybody out there. Hopefully you got a little bit of booze in your hand. Cheers to you, Pat. Michelob Ultra, love it. Got the Wisconsin special going tonight. Got the old spotted cow from New Glarus. If you know, you know, ladies and gentlemen.
I need to bring this boy out.
Oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about.
He's been chugging that since Saturday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, he is. That's why it's the half gone. Yeah, that's been going slowly but surely. Guys, the late pick 5 on Saturday starts in race number 7, and as I'll bring up the Equibase just as we do every single week. But of course, everybody, we're never lucky enough to have morning lines on this show. So unfortunately, we don't have those or numbers on the PPs. We'll do our best to say the horse numbers, the post position numbers with the horse names as we talk through the races, of course, but our apologies in advance. Race number 7, guys, as I said, starts the late pick 5. And as I'll show on the screen now, here's the Equibase. It starts with everybody's favorite. Say it with me. $10,000 to PETA, baby. Field of 8. Morning line favorite, Be My Guest. I have no clue. Picks are up on the bottom of the screen there. Charlie and I are both going with the number 8. Misprint, Lionel Reyes for Bobby DeBona. And Pat's going with the number 3, Our Firebird. Pat, I applaud you because this is a horse that I was actually thinking about putting on top. And I'll talk about why in a little bit after I'll let you. I won't steal any of your thunder, but hats off to you, my friend. I couldn't bring myself to put her on top, so I put her in 3rd. But Pat, you will have the floor as Charlie and I both have the same horse on top. What would you like most to kick off the late pick 5 with hopefully what should be a pretty decent price than the number 3, Our Firebird?
Yeah, what a doozy to kick it off. Yeah, I think she had a rough trip last out. Gets back to a lower level that she hasn't really seen since June. Where she was almost even money that day. Seems like her and Misprint, they've gone kind of toe to toe and traded punches of recent. Who's the other horse, who's I think the 8 in this spot, who I might go off as the favorite, maybe with the 6. That's too tough to tell. But listen, it's just tough to find. You see that 15 buyer last out, and you kind of question it. But that, the horse just broke out and bumped. It was a weird, awkward start. So I'm hoping, she could rebound in a wide open field. And I'm hoping to get 10-1 on her. I mean, I don't know if you guys call me crazy, but I'm thinking 8-10-1 in that range. It's a tough spot.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with you at all. On the price either. I think she'll probably be high singles, but you look at time form, Pat. I mean, this is exactly what you want in what Charlie and I like to refer to as Gulfstream Speedway on this 5.5 to PETA track. So, you get out in front at this track, and you can really take them all the way. And if Our Firebird can bounce back off of that effort last time out, should be pretty far in the clear, and should have a pretty good way around the track. Because the thing that I like, Pat, is you go through, you see a lot of 1s in the form. However, the number 2 Streaking Gray and the number 4 Noble Dreamer, like you look at this horse, right? You're like, this horse has to go. How is this horse not going to go? Mile and 16th, mile and a 16th. Back when she was sprinting, she was up close, but not like dead cent on the lead. She had the ability to sit So, but our Firebird is so fast, has been running at the 5.5 distance, should get a pretty clear lead. Just going to have to hold on to it. That last race, Pat, was the one that kind of dissuaded me a little bit, but did get pressed the entire way and never stood a chance in that one. So I want to at least cover me. I have her in third, but again, on the win end, you should get a pretty decent price. So good luck there. Charlie, you and I are both going with the number 8 misprint in that race in this one. Last race for me was a complete throwout. They also tried her up at the $35,000 level, now dropping her back down to the 16 to 10 level where she's probably running her best.
Yeah, for me, I think to move this horse up that much and to go up at 3-1 is a huge green
as the favorite
flag.
too.
Exactly. It doesn't bother me at all that she didn't do any running. I think normally with horses like this, you would expect them to go off at, maybe 6, 7, 8-1 at that level and not run well. And you say, okay, well, that's why she should move back down. But I think the fact that she took that kind of money is crazy. From the trainer angle as well, I know this is a trainer that you and I kind of talk about with the, Richtons and Victor Barbosa's of the world who do really well in here. You see the trainers at the bottom, 28% on the synthetic and 28% on sprints. I just think Misprint has kind of gotten the better of this level of horses. And I think the reality with her is her, reality check per se was trying to go against much better than these. I think as long as she runs her typical style, I don't really see why she wouldn't win in this spot. I think the 6 is the other main contender to look out for. The other major green flag, and I don't know what you thought, Kyle, but I personally saw, is I really liked them when she kind of pulled this where she ran a 48, a few races back, that she bounced back immediately. And I know she lost by a head, but I just like that after that poor effort, even with the 0 buyer in April, then came back with a 62. She doesn't really seem like one where a bad effort becomes a string of bad efforts. She has shown the ability in the past to bounce back off of a disappointing effort.
Yeah, and like I said, Bobby DeBona, you mentioned that. I was actually going to bring up that stat. You took the wind out of my sails there, but you look at this, you look at synthetic, and like I said, Bobby DeBona is a straight Gulfstream guy. 48 for 212 in the last 5 years, 23%. Then you go even farther, as Charlie mentioned, and you can go to the sprint category here. So synthetic sprints, you're looking at 18 for 62, 29% on the win end. So very good stats for Bobby DeBona on the win end in these types of races. But also, Charlie, your point is there. Last time out as well, probably just too good, really, for her. Now coming back down to the 16 claiming level, where she's really only done well with Bobby DeBona at this type of level. So she went up to the 25 before, got third by 3, definitely not as bad as last time. But you mentioned coming back also. The dirt's probably not where she wants to be either. But so Bobby DeBona put her back on the dirt, ran a 48, comes back and almost wins with a 73. So synthetic sprinting is exactly the $16,000 claiming level. This is 10, even easier per se, but this is exactly what she wants and should get a really, really nice setup. Just kind of stalking right off of the pace. Charlie, you and I both have number 6, who's going to be pretty close to favoritism in this one off of that last race. Pat doesn't have her anywhere, which I find actually really interesting. So, Pat, feel free to touch on anything that you don't like, or, if Charlie says something you disagree with, please jump in. But Charlie, White Knuckle Flyer looks to have a pretty good run, especially off that last race.
Yeah, I'm normally someone where I'm kind of biased towards my Gulfstream horses, especially in these kind of weird races. So for me, this is one where I absolutely would not have touched this horse last time out. Nothing against White Knuckle Flyer, just simply this is one that's been running at Laurel primarily and a little bit of Colonial, strictly on the turf. And, even though, we say turf and Tapeta is fairly similar and a lot closer, obviously, than if you tried to go turf to dirt or vice versa. It's normally something where you like to wait an effort to see if the horse takes to it or not. And that's what my main, green flag is, and why I almost put this 6 horse on top, and you might get better value. I have a feeling the 8 will probably be 7 or 8-5, and you'll probably get 2-1, 5-2 on the 6 horse if I had to guess. But I just like that, like I said, for the Tapeta, horses usually either really take to it or really don't. And I just thought it was really impressive for her that she immediately took to it, matched a buyer top of a 71, was able to do a really nice job of sitting a stalking pace and just being right off the leaders. And I just think stretching out to 5.5, I think she'll appreciate, as that's a distance she has run at a lot more. Actually, I believe that's the first time she's tried to just do 5 flat. And I also just think from a setup perspective that she could use that ability of her, late kick to actually benefit in this setup. And I think she makes a ton of sense in this spot. I also like the fresh face angle as well, because you mentioned a lot of these have seen each other a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Pat, I agree with everything Charlie said. What didn't you like about this horse?
Yeah, listen, and you hit on it, at the top of the show with the race that we were starting with. The horse that I like will be on the lead, I hope.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in this spot where I look at the 8 and the 4 who I have underneath, where I think, they'll be a little bit closer up in a race that I think is wide open. So I kind of just went under the impression of, I'm not going to really try and put in the 6 in here. And if I get beat with my 10-1, I hope on top, I'll be able to fly with it. Listen, I think the horse, like Charlie said, did actually impress somewhat on debut. In her debut performance at Gulfstream. So I'm going to try and beat a favorite in here, but listen, this is wide open. If we're playing the pick 5, this is spread.
Yeah, to me, it's either, for me, Charlie, it's either the 8 or you have to include 4 or 5, really, because behind the 8, if the 8 doesn't show her best on Saturday, it could be 3 or 4 for me. I'm going 8-6-3. Charlie's going 8-6-4. Pat's going 3-8-4 to kick off the late pick 5 at Gulfstream on Saturday. Guys, thankfully, we don't have all $10,000 Gulfstream Tapeta races in this one. We actually have some really nice races coming up. Next is an optional claiming mile and 16th. A fair going, a mile 16th on the turf with a full field of 12 with 4 also eligibles. Of course, we don't have morning lines, so apologies there, but morning line favorite will most likely be the number 3, Clever Mischief, Castellano, and Brown. Second choice is going to be shared either between the number 8, Samburu, or the number 5, Oscar Season. As I bring up the picks right now, we all are going with Clever Mischief in this race. A lot of 5s, a lot of 8s. Pat has a 9 in there for Princetown for Bill Mott. So a lot of similar horses underneath as well as on top, guys. We're seeing this one pretty true to each other. But Charlie, I'll let you go first. Pat started last time. The number 3, Clever Mischief, has just really shown very good runs all 4 of his times out.
Yeah,
or all 3. Sorry, 3 on the turf. Excuse me.
Yeah,
First one wasn't very good.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, ran against some nice horses, but yeah, I want to start by addressing what the elephant in the room is, which is that I, as someone who has picked Fredo every damn time, have this horse nowhere. For me, the divorce papers were filed after that last effort. To be honest, losing by a neck and a length and a half and a neck over and over might be frustrating to people, but I stuck it out. But that last effort was just enough that I've completely divorced that horse. So I don't need any comments given.
I didn't even know he was in this race.
Fredo, I didn't take it. We're done with Fredo. Just had to address that. Now, Clever Mischief, I actually think is a really talented and promising horse. A fairly lightly raced horse compared to some of these others in this field, and is continuously getting better. Obviously, broke the maiden after dirt was not the answer for this horse in a slow pace, but then came back and ran a nice second at Kentucky Downs, which you always talk about as a difficult track. And Degree of Risk is a really nice horse. And then Greenlight is a really talented horse who, would probably be 3 to 5 in this field or 4 to 5. And so to lose to that one by a neck and try to stalk in a really hot pace, I thought just visually this horse was super impressive. And I just think, realistically, I'd have to guess this one will probably open morning line 3 to 1, and will probably take even more money simply from the connections alone, being a Chad Brown horse. But we're kind of talking about this. This is the part where we're entering the championship meet now. Chad is starting to actually send, his horses to Tampa and to Gulfstream, where they're his actual serious horses. And as you touched on with this last leg being a spread, I still think there's some other talented ones in here. But I think if there is a leg where you want to start to go narrow, I think this is one where you could very well, and I'll let you guys talk on it more, but go Clever Mischief and maybe 1 or at most 2 others. I think this one is really talented.
I agree with you. Chad, everyone knows that Chad likes to send horses to Tampa, Pat. So that's one thing to keep in mind. However, since they've been redoing the Gulfstream turf, it's gotten a lot better, and Chad has started to bring his better horses over here. This one has been improving every single start. Maybe a little bit of second-itis, but again, as Charlie pointed out, Degree of Risk and Greenlight are 2 really nice horses.
Yeah, it kind of has that that Chad Brown like schedule where he does the Saratoga Maiden, and then Kentucky Downs. I know you kind of question that, but Kentucky bred, so obviously gets that purse money, a little bit extra, and then Keeneland, and loses to Greenlight like Charlie said. So you get the feeling Chad's trying to get another win under this horse belt, and then open this horse up to something bigger and better in 2025.
I actually really liked this horse last time out, guys. I don't know if you remember that, but Greenlight I didn't like Greenlight at all. I thought there wasn't too much speed in this one. The Clever Mischief sitting right off, got a good trip. Greenlight just ended up being the better horse, ran them all down in very impressive fashion. That was one of my spot plays that day, and I can remember that one fondly. So, but if I liked him at 4-1, granted the value might not be there today. However, it might be good to pair, Charlie, a little bit of a spoiler alert for me, but pair with a horse like the 8 last race to be able to bump up that type of value with Clever Mischief. A horse that I'll mention real quick, and then we can move to the 8. Is Oscar Season. This is kind of that horse in the same realm. Won very impressive at Kentucky Downs on debut, then goes to the Hawthorne Derby. How about that? This horse is actually favored in the Hawthorne Derby, who I liked at 9-2. The Hawthorne Derby was very wide open this year. Ran a good race, just could not run down Arsar Ben Derby, who's actually come back to run pretty well, I believe. Yeah, and was third in the Commonwealth coming out of that race for John Ortiz. Higgins Boats, another horse that came back to win at Fairgrounds as well, and an optional 50 claimer. So losing some good horses in the Hawthorne Derby. Again, shout out to our good friends over at Hawthorne Racecourse, and that was for putting on a very, very nice event there. Then comes back to Churchill and runs very well, just losing to Saint in the City. So should get another good, another nice trip in this one. Maybe a horse like number 3, Clever Mischief, might get a jump on a horse like Oscar Season. However, wouldn't be surprised if this one ends up maturing a little bit and getting the job done on Saturday. Charlie, I'll move into the number 8 here, and then Pat will move into the 9. We'll move on. Samburu, Charlie, is a horse that I have in 3rd, you have in 2nd. This is one that's run very, very good numbers, just can't really put it together on the win end as of recent. 1 win out of 18 starts in the last 2 years. However, this is one of those consistent types that always runs his race.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that you also had this one, because I have a feeling I just didn't want to go chalk because I have a feeling the 3 and 5 will be your main favorites. I think this 8 horse is probably going to open morning line. If I had to guess, 10, 12 to 1, probably close somewhere around 8 to 1. I understand that it's a maker with Zayas. I just think that when you see the number 4 for 24 and you see, the 3 and 5 are, 3-year-olds with only 3 starts, that this is going to be one that people just realize the reality is an underlay. And I do think this 8 is an underlay, but still is one I would use in horizontals defensively. Is definitely one, we'll get to best bets later, that I would use underneath if you have a strong opinion about 3 or 5. But yeah, like you said, hasn't really been able to overall get it done, but has the figures that fit. Lost to Rebel Red, who's a really nice horse, lost to Unit Economics twice, who's a nice horse, has really just been going through the gauntlet of, the New York horses of this kind of level, and has consistently been putting up 2nds, 3rds, and 4ths, which is kind of nice to see, because again, you see 4 wins and then you see only 2 seconds and 2 thirds, but you can see that, that 4th and those 2 seconds and one of those 2 thirds all have been in these recent races. So the form is, really starting to improve. For me, ultimately, I just think this one makes more sense as an underlay. I think 4 of 24 is just, not enough to like on the win end, but still makes a ton of sense and could get a nice trip.
I completely agree with you. I don't even have anything to add. You hit on everything I wanted to. This is a horse, Pat, I actually found really interesting. Didn't run very well at all. Bill Mott puts this horse on the turf at Gulfstream earlier in the year, and runs really well at basically the start of the Royal Palm meet, Charlie, I believe, which is the one after the championship meet,
yes.
if I remember correctly. So kind of like ending championship meet, starting of that meet, runs very well there, breaks maiden, and then he's never seen again until now, and then shows up here. And, you kind of see that with Florida breds, right? But Kentucky bred this horse is, and should come back really well, and has been working well.
Yeah, I mean, the layoff obviously is a little bit scary. But Kyle, like you said, I mean, this horse was kind of gets put under the radar because everybody leaves town, and this horse ends up breaking his maiden, 4th time out. So I'm hoping, that layoff won't be that big of a concern, and this horse can use that performance, which was very well. If this horse can take another step forward and appreciate the extra distance, which I think he will. I think he should be right there. I just do think, between the 3, Clever Mischief, and, the 5 and the 8 that you guys hit on, they have been proven a little bit more, but I think this horse can improve into that kind of category of where they're at.
Well, especially off the time off, right? I mean, you give this horse, what is that, like 9 months almost, or 8 months, just over 8 months now. And especially as a 3-year-old, these younger horses only can improve with time. So this horse I gave a lot of looking to between the 8 and the 9. end up going with the 8 because of that layoff. However, the thing that I like with these layoff horses, Pat, is that, the long, not necessarily long, but like, multiple works coming into this race. That this horse been working at Payson ever since Saratoga closed for the winter. So Bill Mott's had this type of spot in mind for this horse. So I like that when it seems like Bill Mott's always very good about this. He has a plan, sticks to the plan, now shows up here. That should be a pretty good spot for him as long as he runs well off of the layoff. I'm going 3.58. Charlie's going 3.85. Patrick's going 3.95. Guys, let's move on to race number 9. This is a nice 7 furlong optional claimer for 75,000 for 2-year-olds and draws a field of 8. And as I bring up the Equibase right now, I'll switch our picks. We are from everyone on the same horse to 3 horses and 3 horses for 3 different people is what I'm trying to say, in an 8-horse field too. I'm going with the number 2, Rolando, Tyler Gaffleone, Fausto Gutierrez. Charlie's going with the number 6, Paradise City, who I respect everyone for having that in there because I think she's going against the boys, is very live in this race. And Pat's going with the number 4, Cool Intentions, for David Egan and Jorge Delgado. Patrick, I'll let you talk first. Charlie, I'll let you go next as well as always. Pat, and the number 4, Cool Intentions, the horse that's only run twice but has run well in both.
Yeah, so on debut, the horse kind of broke a little bit slower from the inside and did come on late, was no threat to Rolando in that spot. But I did like the progression there. And then, next out, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I'm not sure. I believe the 25 second first quarter. But
this is outside championship meet Gulfstream you're talking about, Pat.
I know.
So it could be.
That's the sad part. But what I'm trying to get to here is I think the progress that this horse has shown second out, and was bet in this spot, and actually did face a couple horses that were in the race on debut. I just think the progression there has shown to me that this horse should be able, third time out, to take another step. And Jorge Delgado's been unbelievable with his 2-year-olds this year. So I'm hoping that on my side will be good too. But other than that, I know you guys, Kyle, you like the 2 Rolando, who I think is going to be tough in here and probably will be the favorite. But this is another tough one.
Yeah, I mean, this is another tough race. This one, if he is a favorite, it's going to be a pretty not really soft favorite, probably 5-2, somewhere in that type of range, I would think. But Cool Intentions definitely has a chance to be up there. Charlie, you have this horse in second, so anything you want to hit on with Cool Intentions, and then I'll move into your top pick of the number 6, Paradise City.
Yeah, I actually think, just from the ability of the 6 is what got me excited to put that one on top. But I think from a trip perspective, you could actually make a legitimate argument that Cool Intentions is the best setup of any horse in this field. As Pat kind of said, didn't have the best start on debut, but was able to kind of get that nice stalking trip. There just wasn't enough distance to really do anything about it. And then I really liked that last time out with the distance stretch that, when they were setting ridiculously slow fractions for, especially when it's Gulfstream Speedway normally, that, this one showed the ability to just say, look, if you're not going to get on with it, even though I'm more of a stalker closer type, then I'll just go right by you and win going away. I think 7 furlongs is perfect for this horse. I think that he'll get enough setup. And, I was really struggling with deciding to put the 6 or 4 on top. I will say my only pushback against the 2, and then I'll go into my top pick, is I actually think, while the 2 is definitely the speed of the speed, and that's normally the case with a Vacoma horse, but I just think there's other speed in this race. I think the 3 directly to the outside has no other option but to go. I think the 7 horse, who I'll touch on in a minute, that's one that clearly has to go. And I just don't know. I mean, again, it's very early on. He's only had 2 starts, but I don't know if he's ready at this stage of his career for 7. And I have a feeling he'll be first or second choice. So I'm trying to beat him. I'll go into Paradise City now, my top pick. Yes, I know it's a bit bold to go with the fillies against the boys. But, as much as we like to make fun of Saffie or get annoyed with him, the reality is a large reason why is because we know he wins. 25% with 2-year-olds and 23% in these route to sprint angles. He's really good here, especially in these opening parts of the championship meets where we haven't quite got to the point, where there's a ton of Pletchers and Chads down here and we're only just starting to get to see them. This is where Saffie still continues to dominate. Gets Micah Husbands aboard, who is really an underrated and young new jockey that's done decent here at Gulfstream. And I just thought the debut was really solid. I thought it was pretty bold and impressive that Safi decided to send this one from a maiden special weight 40 during the down part of Gulfstream to then send to an optional claiming 100,000 during the heart of the Keeneland meet. And not only that, but then for this one to go off at less than even money off of again, like a debut that was fine but nothing crazy, just to me speaks volumes about how much the public appreciates this horse as well. For C2 Racing Stable, which you have to pay attention to, and now gets back here to a distance that I like. I think the obvious question is there enough pace for her to get there? I think there is, and I think 7 furlongs is a great distance. And again, I just think she's run against better than anyone else in this field and makes a ton of sense.
I couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, I have her in second. I think she's very alive in this race. However, I am going with the 2 Rolando, and time form has it. The Rolando is really way faster than anyone else. And I think that last race is what kind of seals it for me on the win end, at least. Rolando ran last time out in a optional claimer 75,000 after breaking his maiden, was 4-5 in that race. However, Lou was a horse that was deep closing that day from way far back. The only horse that was near the pace, obviously Candy Crumbs finished fourth, but finished fourth by 6.5 back from Rolando. Rolando was the only horse that was near the pace to finish anywhere near the lead and only lost by a length and a half. And as I'll show the end of this replay here, you see Rolando is just getting a little leg weary after going 22 and 45. For 7 furlongs, even at Gulfstream Park, that's pretty quick. No, you see that Lou and Back 'em Up are the 2 horses that are flying late. However, Rolando's not necessarily just giving it up, right? He switches leads and actually has a little bit of a kick left, even after going that fast, and only ends up losing by, length and 3/4, 2 lengths. I think that's actually a pretty big effort, even though the buyer has dropped significantly. I like that even if a horse like the 3 is a little bit faster, Rolando can take back, sit on the outside, gets Tyler Gaffalione aboard, which I actually like Leon Reyes a lot as a Gulfstream jockey. However, Gaffalione is going to be an upgrade as he is from almost anyone that takes him out. So I really like Rolando a lot from either he can send, because I think he's faster than everybody, or he can take back a little bit away from the 3 and be able to sit just off of the speed. I think he has either one in the arsenal. And it's not too often you see a 140 time form pace figure, at least early on. That's a very, very fast pace, at least in the front part of the race. So last race, very, very fast pace. I don't think it's going to be nearly as fast this time. And even if it is, I think they've learned that they can't just gun completely. Can sit back and have a really nice trip going into the stretch. But I have the number 7, Charlie, which I know you have as well. Back 'em Up in third. Last horse we'll talk about before we move on, but Back 'em Up makes a ton of sense to me. Is one of those that showed last time that he could sit in that replay we just watched with Rolando. I just think he kind of tripped out. Maybe it's not as good of a horse as Rolando is, but makes sense underneath.
Yeah, I just thought there were, again, a bunch of green flags for this horse. I'll start with the obvious red flag that you would see, which was, started as a maiden special weight and then immediately, despite switching to dirt, say we're not going to throw into a maiden special weight, say 40,000 on dirt, that they go straight to, just a non-maiden special weight race. But then wins by 11 and dominates. And then I thought, to come out of a race like that and go into an optional claiming 75, which is a big step up. And again, kind of like we talked about in, the race before, to be a horse that's taken a big step up and yet despite that, we talked about this in the first race, with the 8 horse, where this one took a big step up and yet got bet down to 4-1. And, obviously wasn't on the lead, but still was, only 2 lengths off that hot pace and was able to stay on the whole time. Also gets a major jockey upgrade to Edgar Zayas. I just think there is still a lot to like in this one. I'll say personally, I don't want to speak for both of you, but when I was looking through this pick 5 sequence, I feel like the first leg and this leg are the 2 races that you could argue, even if they're smaller fields, could just be spreads, because the first race, they're only 10,000. And this one, it's a lot of 2-year-olds. These are still young, unpredictable horses that are figuring things out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you by any means. Obviously, with us going 3 different horses on the win end, you can take for what it is as well. I'm going 2-6-7. Charlie's going 6-4-7. Pat's going 4-2-6. Paul Conlon, my friend, did anyone place any irresponsible future Derby bets last weekend? Irresponsible, not the word for it, but of course I was really actually up. But you guys torched it. The price, I wanted to get in on just the podcast bet, and you guys just torched that price out of the water at 30-1 for Uncle Jim. So didn't end up putting as much as I wanted to, just because, I mean, you guys.
It had David Aragona commenting on Twitter about that horse.
I know, because and then everyone, you can see the comments underneath it. It's just, yeah, thanks HHH Racing Podcast, stuff like that. So, people want to get in. Like I said, Howard's been great. I mean, obviously he's had Tapit Trice and now and Sierra Leone last year, and hopefully Uncle Jim can do the same, but do the thing that none of those ended up doing, which is not win the Kentucky Derby. Let's move on to race number 10, guys, the penultimate leg in the late pick 5. Another mile into 70, or another Peter race, this time mile into 70 yards with another full field of 11. As I bring up the Equibase right now, I'll switch the picks over. 3 different horses again, guys, but Charlie's going with the number 11 Space Launch. Patrick's going with the number 1 Lucky Curlin, and I'm going with the number 2 Lord of War for Cassie and Gonzalez. Lucky Curlin, Zayas and Maker, and Charlie's horse Space Launch is Castellano and Jose D'Angelo. Charlie, I'll let you have the floor first. Let Patrick have it last time. So number 11 Space Launch is going to be one of the lower price horses in this race, and according to Timeform, this one should have a fast pace, which Space Launch will relish.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say he's probably going to be morning line 9-2, 4-1, probably 4-1. If I'm being honest, I'd like more. But yeah, no, this is one that I think makes a ton of sense. As you said, the pace is certainly there. Pretty big drop in class. Obviously this one in late December of 23 was at this level, and one going away, sitting off the pace is a big favorite. I just like that Space Launch has experience. Has only run twice, but still has had experience on the Tapita here and has run well twice there. I also like that he actually showed a little more of an ability to sit closer in those races, which I think is what he's going to need here. Doesn't bother. I'm willing to completely toss that last race. Still took him a ton of money. I understand that he's 6 now, but it just didn't work out for him. I just find it very hard to believe that that's, going to be his norm going forward, and that all those efforts in the mid 80s and even that 90 that he popped, that all those efforts are for naught. And he's ran against some very decent and tough horses that have come back to win in other races. Obviously, you look at that Saratoga race back running against Irish Aces and taking Candy, like that is a very solid field. And I just I love D'Angelo in these kind of spots. I think he's another one of those great trainers that thrives this time of year, gets Castellano aboard, and like you kind of mentioned with the pace and all those races where you see red figures, he's gone on to run really well here. So I think he makes a ton of sense. Obviously, the question is going to be being able to navigate that gate and get over to save ground, but I think Space Launch makes a ton of sense here.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in second, so I completely agree with you. I like that he's 6 years old, but still running consistent figures. The last time out at Monmouth was wide, basically a throw out to me. This is a much easier spot than that one is as well. So if he runs back and has run well on this Gulfstream Park Tapita before as well, and favored, also only losing to Tatanka, who's the speed demon that Tatanka is. So I like Space Launch in this regard. Going to need to be a pretty fast pace for this horse to get home. However, according to, if you get the one that Timeform says, this horse should get a very favorable trip. Pat, you have a horse. Actually, Charlie has this horse in second, so I'm the only one lacking apparently awareness on this horse. Lucky Curlin, Maker, and Zayas. So you guys get to show me why I'm going to be completely wrong.
Well, we're going to have to scratch off every race until, let's go, December 21st of 2023. Going this distance on the same surface, ran a pretty nice race. Listen, This 7-year-old now, I mean, listen, Maker was putting this horse in some big fields at long odds. I'm not sure what the intentions were. The last 2 were not pretty, but he seemed Michael Maker I'm talking about here. He seems to find the knack for these claiming races, dropping these horses down. This horse gets the inside and has run very well on the inside in the past. So I'm going to take a shot in here. Others in here did not really strike me as something I wanted to put on top. And I think I'm going to get a decent price on Lucky Curlin. Now, as much negatives as I said, I do think there's a couple positives in there in a race that I know Charlie said there's a couple races that are spread. I believe this is one of them.
I mean, look, man, the only thing is this horse is in the Elkhorn and the Pan American. Obviously, didn't run that well, but why is this horse in here? I mean, he's 7 years old now. He's getting older. Just gonna bank on no one's gonna claim him for the 25. But man, last time I was really bad. I mean, granted, Battle of Normandy is a very nice horse. You have Silver Knot, Cortez, Gray Wizard, obviously all in there. And then this horse shows up at 1.70 on Tapeta after running 1.5 miles, 2 miles. It's just kind of it's a really weird spot to me, at least. However, this horse shown that he can run on the Tapeta in the past, has won at the claiming level here at Gulfstream for double this price. So, maybe I'm going to bank on this horse is getting older. Maybe just doesn't have the stuff he once had. However, has shown at least a year ago that he can run this type of distance, this type of surface, and this type of level. So I don't disagree with you guys at all on that one. Just willing to play against. I'm going with number 2, Lord of War. This is a horse that should be another price as well. There's a lot of only speed from this horse. However, I think there's a bunch of horses that are a lot faster than him, i.e. Chaplin's not slow at all. However, has shown ability to rate previously. However, at the 5 furlong distance, now coming to the mile, should be up close. The number 4, King Faliero, is not slow at all. Should be up close. Rigel is not slow at all. So there's going to be a ton of speed, as mentioned, on the time form. And you go back to those Woodbine races for Lord of War, and this horse sat at the 32 optional claiming level, sat at Gulfstream and ended up winning by 5 3/4 at the starter allowance level, sat at Woodbine going 7. So I don't think this horse is necessarily fast in where he only needs the lead. I think that he has the ability to sit and still running pretty decent figures, even though he is 6 years old now. He is a kind of a lightly raced 6-year-old compared to someone like the one Lucky Curlin, who's run 41 times. Lord of War's only run 28 times. 2 for 4 on the Gulfstream Park to Pete on the win end, 3 for 4 in the money, 7 for 8 at the distance in the money at this 1.70. So just lots of things to like for Lord of War for me. Could bite me in the end. However, at what's hoping to be a pretty decent price for this one, somewhere in the middling singles, I'm willing to take a shot on Lord of War. Pat, Charlie, you have this horse in third as well, so I'll let you have the final say on this horse, and then Pat, I'll let you talk about one of your underneath horses, because we don't have the 7 anywhere. So Charlie, go ahead on Lord of War.
Yeah, I just think Lord of War makes a ton of sense in this spot. Again, for me, my angle was to take, you can see it's true with all 3 of my horses that have run on the Gulfstream Tapeta and have shown success there. So that was my angle with this one. Ran against Gulfstream. We like to say Arlington legends, but the reality is, even though this one broke my heart before, but we know Fly the W is a Gulfstream legend, if we're being honest, especially in these kinds of races. And, Lord of War in a race where I don't know what the odds were on Fly the W, but I got to imagine less than even money, lost by only a neck. I completely agree with you. You see a lot of blue figures, and I think you can kind of see that both ways, where, the red flag would be for a horse that's forwardly placed and getting perfect trips isn't winning. But at the same time, for me, I also looked at it as that means he doesn't need the lead. It's more so been, well, if you're going to go this slow, I might as well then go for the lead. I also think Edwin Gonzalez is a very underrated jockey who's having a great meet. So, and I agree, you'll get a great price. I think this one for me personally is more of an underlay, but on a horizontal ticket, wouldn't be afraid to use. And I'll briefly touch on the one, and then I'll let Pat take over. I think Pat made a lot of great points. I just think the reality is this one's been running against way too tough. The main thing that Pat said that I want to emphasize that I agree with is the Michael Maker line. These are the exact kind of races and spots that he thrives in. I think the reason the horse is in for 25 is simply that, he's 7 years old at this point. He's ran some huge efforts, though, on the Tapeta, which I like. And also, even on the turf effort, you look at his last effort, before he left from Abreu. The horse lost by a length and a half to Ice Chocolat, who would be, 1-9 in this race. So for me, I think Lucky Curlin still makes a ton of sense. I just think, like Pat said, that, you got to keep in mind there's a lot of question marks, but just trust Maker.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. I don't disagree with you, obviously, either. Last horse we'll talk about, Charlie, is the number 7, Italian Symphony. Sorry, you can see there's too many non-numbers in here. I got to make sure that I'm going to the right horse. Italian
How
Symphony.
How do you even do that? I would lose my mind if trying to figure out these numbers. I know you have the Equipace, but
that's exactly it. I have a reference. It's hard, trust me. Italian Symphony, Charlie, the last horse we'll talk about. Or no, Patrick, excuse me, the last horse we'll talk about. You have in second.
Yeah, with Italian Symphony, I liked the previous two races, both at Laurel on October 24th and August 18th. I thought those were pretty decent, two decent races. The horses that faced in there were not great, but I just think in this field, I'm trying to find prices, and I'm thinking my top two choices, um, one of which could be double digit odds.
Yeah.
So, and this horse should be forwardly placed in a race that I think, could deal an upset. So I'm hoping for a price in here to get to race 11. That Gray Wizard.
Oh yeah, I know. Trust me, I get it. But again, I'll never talk a person off of double-digit odds. That's the mantra. So good luck with both of your horses. I'm going 2-11-3. Charlie's going 11-1-2. Pat's going 1-7-3. And guys, before we move on to the last race, if you guys have come in late, please go down below the video player, hit like and hit subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. Again, completely free. It's the best way to help out our channel, but also it pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And cheers to you guys for doing that. Let's go into the last race, guys. And this is the featured race on the card. It's the H. Allen Jerkins Handicap, not the H. Allen Jerkins that we all know and love. The H. Allen Jerkins Handicap, going 2 miles on the turf course at Gulfstream Park. The old 4-turner, baby. 4 turns. Draws a field of 11 for a 2-mile race. And the morning line favorite will be the number 9, Gray Wizard. If it's not, I have no idea what to think anymore. Castellano, Graham Motion, who both Patrick hinted at and Charlie has on top. I'm going with the number 8, Utah Beach, Gaffleone, Ignacio Correas. Again, guys, the Gray Wizard, not too much to talk about him, really, but he's been very, very good. Won his last race that was at Far Hills, so he doesn't get a buyer for it. However, I think that was probably his best race of his career so far. That or the Belmont Gold Cup, which was very, very good. Charlie, I'll let you start first. Pat, hit on anything you need to. What do you guys like about the Gray Wizard?
Yeah, this is one I've been sort of, tailing for a while now. And luckily for me, honestly, I haven't really had to chase. I think I've only lost with the Gray Wizard once or twice, and I think one time I had the horses in underlay anyway. But yeah, look, he's been in great form. He loves these kind of races. Obviously, these are not the ones you're typically used to anywhere, but especially I'd say at a track like Gulfstream, I can't really say. I could definitely count on one hand the number of times, even though it's my new home track, where I've had to handicap a 2-mile race at Gulfstream. This is probably the first or second time. But yeah, hasn't put a foot wrong. I know we don't get the buyer, but as you said, was another impressive effort. Repeatedly takes money and just wins these kinds of races. And I think the reality here is, and we'll get to best bets later, but I think I know it's not creative, but I think the reality is, you kind of touched on with some of the earlier races. I think this is one where you either just single the Gray Wizard or you pick 2 or 3 horses and try to beat the Gray Wizard. For me personally, I would single this one, and if I get here, figure out if I do want to back up or not. But I just think he hasn't done anything wrong. He thrives in these races. He's obviously got the best strength of schedule of any horse here. And honestly, the other part for me, and I'll let you talk on it more, Kyle, but obviously first I'll let Pat out on the Great Wizard. But the other horse that only other one I really thought had a chance, Utah Beach, hasn't shown to be able to run this distance yet. So that was another factor for me.
I mean, Pat, anything you want to add on the Gray Wizard? He's been very, very good. He's beaten limited liability. If you just take out, honestly, the Kentucky Downs track, which we know can be in its own, weird in its own right. He's 3 in a row and has really run 3 big ones in a row.
Yeah, for sure. And, Graham Motion kind of hinted at that prior to the Belmont Gold Cup up in Saratoga over the summer. The horse really early on couldn't really get on a good schedule distance wise, and he just really wasn't sure what to do with the horse. And then gets him on this schedule into the Belmont Gold Cup, and you kind of had an idea of what this horse was going to do. But Siskiny in that, was in that race where obviously
I knew
that
it was
horse
coming, dude. I knew it was coming.
It was, that was kind of the race where the Gray Wizard just popped out, and so I think the Gray Wizard is going to be tough in here. Really appreciate how Graham Motion's got this horse to progress. But I do think, and Charlie hit on it too, Utah Beach is the alternative, and Kyle makes a good point, and we're going head to head again.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And I love that, dude. Anytime you see Siskney on the running line, it's always got to come out just for Charlie's sake.
I hate that horse so much.
I have Utah Beach on top, guys, and even though he hasn't run this 2 mile distance, he's won by 4 3/4 at Keeneland in a really nice allowance N2X, running against horses in this race like 6-. Losing the Battle of Normandy at a mile and a 16th. Never, you could see in that race that he wants to go longer. Never really got going. The Sycamore last time out lost to Highway Robber and Bold Act at a mile and a half, which are probably just better at that distance. I just really like this distance going for Utah Beach. He's only seeming to progress more, even though he hasn't won since the April meet at Keeneland, 92, then 83, 86, 92. Now looking to build off that 92 again here off of that Sycamore. Just feel like this could be Utah Beach's best spot to be able to get a really nice win under his belt. Also, the thing is this is 2 miles at Gulfstream, guys. They're basically starting where the mile starts at Gulfstream. If there's one thing you don't want to be at Gulfstream Park at this type of configuration, it's wide post. And 2 mile distance, you can argue that doesn't mean too much. However, you definitely don't want to be wide on any of these turns, especially the tight turns of Gulfstream Park. So Utah Beach only being one gate inside the Gray Wizard's not going to be too much of a help. However, anyone outside of that, I'd be a little bit wary in their post position, at least off of that first turn. But anything you guys want to mention on Utah Beach, I just think this time could be the time at a longer distance. English Channel, lasting approval. Sources only wants more and more distances. Definitely run like it.
Yeah, no, I think the efforts make a lot of sense. I also like that, you touched on, and I thought you might highlight it, but it's all good. The Keeneland one was the last time effort, but you look the race before that, and that's the one time this horse has had a chance to run any sort of marathon at Gulfstream, and obviously took well enough to get the job done and win that race. So I think that's another plus for sure, because you touched on Gulfstream's already kind of a strange enough course for some horses to deal with as is once you get to that mile or so. So I feel like to have that win under his belt at this course in a marathon race is important. And I think the other thing, which is going to sound crazy, but I feel like, the speed that he has could be dangerous. And I know that sounds wild when you see a horse with early speed of 29, but, the reality is the Gray Wizard's early speed is 16. So, as crazy as it sounds, like
get the jump, baby.
Right, but I'm serious, you look visually and you see this one gets the jump. And even then you see in all these races where Utah Beach has been running at a mile and a half or a mile and a fourth, I feel like 29 early speed is absurdly disrespectful. He's normally only a few lengths off the lead. And you even look at the race 2 back, cut this horse all the way back to a mile and a 16th. It was only 2 lengths off the lead. I know they didn't go fast, but I just feel like to be 2 lengths off at a mile and a 16th, and then you're saying in this kind of race only his 29 early speed just doesn't make sense. So I feel like I like that Tyler G's aboard as well, and I do think this one, we'll see how much of a jump it is for a marathon race, but nonetheless, we'll still get the jump on the Gray Wizard.
Like I said, I really like Utah Beach in this spot. The Gray Wizard's going to be pretty heavily favored, I think, something to 5. And Utah Beach should be hopefully somewhere 5-2, 3-1, hopefully somewhere in that range, which is good enough of a price for me to take a shot to try and beat the Gray Wizard. Rob N brings up a really nice stat. I'll bring it up in a second, but I want to bring up one thing, guys, real quick, and then we'll move on to best bets. And then Charlie's got to get his rant in. Basically, Paul rants of the week, just in Bettin and Boozin form. How many lengths does Prevent in front by the backstretch on the first turn? This horse has a 114 speed figure on the lead at a mile distance at Gulfstream. This is 2 miles. How far is this horse in front? 8, 10?
It's a fun game to play.
Yeah, it's like Tatanka level.
And for how long?
Yeah, well, that's also true, right? But it's like, how far is this horse gonna be in front? I like over under 8.5, and over is probably a very juicy concept considering that the 2 best horses in the race have 29 and 16 early pace.
I want to set a line on how many lengths this horse is going to fade to last by, because to run a mile to 16th at reasonable fractions and fade from first to 8 lengths back and now going almost another mile more, I think that should be the 2 lines. What's bigger, the distance he's ahead or the distance he finishes last by?
I mean, look, man, he's probably going to go 26 and 51 or something like that, so 2 miles. So we'll see how it goes, but he's going to be in front. That is for certain. I'm going 897. Charlie's going 987. Pat's going 983. Guys, best bets, and then we'll get into Charlie's rant of the week. Also, sorry, by the way, forgot to mention, if Utah Beach goes above 3-1, that's the old irresponsible wager of the week, sponsored by nobody. Little inside the NBA TNT joke for everyone out there, but we have to hit on. We're trying to make it a weekly thing, people. Irresponsible wager of the week for me will be Utah Beach at anything above 3-1 or above. Pat, bring up your best bets first. You talked about it. A win place on the number 3 are Firebird and race number 7, and race number 10 trying to get value out of the Gray Wizard, going 1-7 into 9, starting with a double race and starting in race 10.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get like between 8 and 10 to 1 on our Firebird. I think that race is wide open, so I'll play a little win place, and then probably do some the good old try key in there, and then in race 10, daily double. Also, race 10, the 1 and the 7, those will be one at least will be a double-digit favorite. I'm hoping maybe both will be into the Gray Wizard, who I think is a standout in there. But for Kyle's sake, I hope he sends us a text on Saturday afternoon, as you know we're following Gulfstream and watching the college football conference championship weekend, and he rubs it in all of our faces that Utah Beach nails Gray Wizard at the wire.
Yep. Hey, and I wouldn't be. And again, like I said, my Super Bowl hit last week, so anything is a plus. So good luck with your best bets, Pat. Like I said, I was this close to doing something with our Firebird, but went against it. But good luck if that does hit on your end. Charlie, moving into your best bets, race number 8 on exacta 3 over 5.8 using the Chad, going over the Brendan Walsh and I was going to say Sambuca. That's definitely not that horse's name, but Samburu. That's what that horse's name is. Close. We're getting there. The beers haven't kicked in too much yet. And race number 10, trying to get double again with the Gray Wizard, 111 this time with the 9.
Yeah, so honestly, my unreasonable wager, if I could have one, would be Clever Mischief. If I got at least, I'd say realistically 5-2 or 3-1, especially if I got 3-1. Again, I just think it's one that's been running against so much tougher, very inexperienced, is figuring things out. And I think, Chad wants to set the tone with this one, which is a big green flag for me. And then, as we touched on, I think obviously we talked about Dutching. I think I would definitely Dutch the exactas because obviously, the 5 Oscar season's probably going to be, 4-1 or, 7-2 is your second choice. And then the 8's probably going to be, 8-1 or so, somewhere around there. So I would play those 2 exactas, go with the chalk over the other chalk and then get a nice value play. And then, same thing with the doubles. I think the 11 makes a ton of sense. I really like the pace setup that's going to be in there. You talked about it, Kyle, that, obviously needs a lot of pace for space launch, but there should be. That one will probably be my low price. And then again, I know Pat and I are kind of, being crazy and going off the path, going with this lucky Curlin horse who doesn't really make a lot of sense, but is a maker horse, so makes sense and has efforts that make sense. But the last few efforts, wonder if a retirement home's time. But I'm going to bank on with that one as my other Dutch double, that it's not retirement home time and that, the Gray Wizard ultimately gets it done here. So those are my 2 bets.
Hey, like I said, especially if you can get lucky, Curlin Home's going to be a price that's going to boost that for sure. I'll go to my best bets as well, guys. I already gave a little bit of a hint on them. Going with, actually, that's supposed to be the number 8, in race number 7. That was on Patrick's best bet, basically, with our Firebird in race number 7. Race number 8, singling the number 8 that Charlie and I talked at length about, and the number 8 misprint, and then trying to get value out of that Chad Brown horse, Clever Mischief, that Charlie touched on as well, and Oscar Season, which is the Brendan Walsh horse. Hopefully she get a pretty decent double price in there. And the irresponsible wager of the week brings it back once again with a win on the number 8, Utah Beach, in race 11, barring any disastrous odds predicaments where this horse is 8-5 or something insanity. 5-2 would be more than fine. 3-1 even better for this horse with the Gray Wizard in there, just trying to beat out the favorite to close out the late pick 5 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. And guys, I know, look at this, guys, and everyone, Charlie has a rant now. Rant. Strap it in, everybody. I know this was by special request. I have no idea what is going on in this one. This might cancel the show, basically. I have no idea what's going to happen on this rant, but Charlie, I don't have a special graphic. I should have made one like Paul, and I should have crossed it out and put Charlie's or something. But I'll let Charlie have the floor for a couple minutes. He wants to rant about something, and there's one thing that everyone loves about Charlie. It's a good old rant. So, and then we'll close out the show after the Charlie Freeman rant. Charlie, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so the very brief one, obviously the main one I'll get to in a moment. Obviously, I know people want to know what I thought about the OSU game. I really don't understand why we were trying to play Michigan's game. There are only two good players on their defense. We're on the D-line. If we kept throwing the football, we win that game by 50. Countless turnovers. I don't want to talk about that game anymore, though. That's not my rant, but OSU should have won that game by 50. I really do hope Michigan does enjoy their appearance in the let's pick a random goal. Though Michigan's going to really enjoy the Cricket Celebration Bowl. How about they enjoy that game while Ohio State focuses on a national championship? But no, my rant is about the College Football Playoff Committee. I think what they did last night when they released the rankings, as I said, my misery went on to here, was the most disgraceful rankings I have ever seen in my entire life. For starters, they were asked that if SMU lost, could they potentially put Bama in for sure over that and give them advantage? Yeah, they said yes, which I think it's taken away the integrity of the game. Why play college football championship? Why play conference championship games? Why not just have them forfeit? Why not just have them pretend their team has COVID and not show up? I think penalizing teams for losing conference championship games is the dumbest thing ever. And the main part of this rant is Alabama. There is no world where Alabama should be in the college football playoff. They are fortunate to be in the top 25, let alone in the top 12. It is a complete and utter disgrace to football that Alabama is going to make the playoff potentially, especially over Miami. You're telling me a Miami team who lost on the road by 4 points to a Georgia Tech team who took SEC powerhouse Georgia to 8 overtimes is a bad loss. They lost at Syracuse, who is a 3-loss team by a few points. But Alabama, who has 3 losses, who lost to 6-6 Vandy, who got boat raced by a god-awful Oklahoma team that is 6-6, is somehow above them in the rankings. There is no justification. Miami does not have nearly as bad of losses. They have plenty of good wins. And the reason they don't have ranked wins is because ESPN has the SEC wrapped around the finger, and so does this committee. They are on their knees for the sorry-ass SEC conference. It is a dog shit football conference, and I cannot wait till they get embarrassed in this college football playoff. I'm telling you right now, the national champion will be a team out of the Big Ten. It will not be any team from the SEC. The SEC is not good. I'm sick of the bullshit that they are giving to Alabama. Alabama is an awful football team, and they will get murdered by any team they play. Alabama made the college football playoff, or will potentially, because they beat an FCS school and they beat Auburn. That is it. They are a terrible program. They don't have Nick Saban, and there's no excuse. The college football committee is a disgrace. They got to fix the whole playoff. That's my rant. Fuck Alabama and fuck the committee.
And we end with there we go. See, there's the cancel, guys. There's the cancel part, people. Told you it was coming at some point. And hey, that first point, Charlie, if they're going to play that game and it's going to be Will Howard versus Davis Warren, no one's scoring 50 points in that game. They are both ass is the answer. They're both going to be bagging groceries at Walmart by next semester. So to that point, I'll argue at that point. However, Alabama should not be in there. I agree with you. I don't think they should be in the top 12. We'll see what happens come. And look, if they get destroyed in the college football playoff, then we can say we were right. And then when they end up taking them to the Cotton Bowl in the Final Four, and then then you'll eat it. I won't be. I'm not part of this. Patrick, last words, as everyone just loves when Charlie goes on, because feel like he doesn't breathe when he speaks, which is absolutely
he doesn't. It's incredible. No, I just we can end with this. There was a theme to last night's college football playoff rankings show that the ACC is a weak conference, which it is, and we need to realize that. And that's why the commissioner of the playoff said that there's going to be an issue if SMU loses. What could happen? And Miami's not very good. They're not that good of a team. It's just plain and simple. They've played an easy schedule, and they barely made it past, what was that, Virginia at home when they won on that Hail Mary, I think that was, right? I don't know.
I also just don't think Alabama's that good either, but obviously
which is fine, but I think the ACC is not good.
But is that why Miami beat Florida, who took out Ole Miss and went toe-to-toe with Georgia and beat them by 100? Is that why 7-5 Georgia Tech needed a referee clown show to get them to lose to Georgia in 8 overtimes at home. Like, I'm sorry, the ACC is not a bad conference. I'm not here. The Big 12 is an awful conference. I'll hear that. The ACC is not a bad conference, and the SEC is not a good conference anymore. The best conference.
Stop.
They're not.
They are very good, Charlie.
They're not as good as they used to be. They're just not. And
I
the
mean,
reality is,
there's no powerhouse, realistically speaking. Like, there's no Alabama's not going 12-0 and beating everyone by 50 points.
College football in general,
that's what it is.
Parity is in the parity in college football now with the transfer portal and NIL.
Correct.
It's wide open. So the idea of saying that the SEC is not a good conference, not good anymore, is ridiculous.
I honestly just think other conferences have gotten better, realistically speaking. Sure. And that's the beauty of college football, is the fact that now it's getting to a point where anyone can beat anybody. And that's why you have teams like SMU or whatever in the college football playoff to show what they have. And if they get blasted by the SEC, people can say, well, look, it's not, no one's changed or whatever. But look, I get the rant. The point needs to be talked about at least. However, obviously, it's all gets settled after the conference games, and obviously can be the full ranking will be settled after the college games. But again, everyone loves a good Charlie rant, so hopefully you all got your fix until next week when it eventually comes on. Well, Paul, we're Bears fans around here, so there's enough to go around. That's for sure. I also saw something today that Jeff Bezos was front runner to buy the Bears or something like that. Wow. It was something like insanity. I don't know, dude. Twitter's a charm of a place, that is for sure. But guys, we can't go on too much longer. We've eclipsed the hour and 5-minute mark, which is the absolute dead stop for this show a lot of the time. So thank you guys all so much for watching. It's been a very fun episode, very smooth episode, coupled with a not breathing 3-minute rant at the end. As you guys see on the bottom side of the screen, tune into our other shows tonight, Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Pacific Horseplayers, and tomorrow, Thursday, for Picks and Ponies, covering the Cigar Mile Day at Aqueduct, also at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just like Bettin and Boozin was tonight. For my co-host, actually, real quick, I wanted to bring up that Rob N stat that I didn't bring up earlier. We'll end with this. My apologies to everybody out there, but I did want to bring this one up. Over the past 2 years, he's talking about the Gray Wizard. Graham Motion is 0 for 24 when going from an allowance race, or no, sorry, it might be his other one, from an allowance race to a turf stakes condition, 5 seconds, 4/3 in 24 starts. That's just a good stat for people to keep in mind as we wrap up the show. For my co-hosts, Charlie Freeman, Patrick Kunsel, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 109 of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering the Gulfstream Park Saturday late pick 5 not to kick it off, but to start off the show for the Gulfstream Park Championship meets. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.